as Lightning Spear keeps its integrity with all the damage links, all that damage, and now also getting 70% gained as extra damage, half of it cold, half of it lightning, which means... Hey there guys, what's up? Snoo here, welcome back to the channel. Today I want to give you, in my opinion, the absolute strongest Herald link in the game for conventional Lightning Spear, which is still to this day the meta and the most played build out there. And I definitely think it's something that many of you are missing out on. Up to 70% more damage for your build. I think actually most of you are probably missing about half of that. Some of you probably got some of it, what we're talking about. But we're going to be focusing on Innervate and Ice Bite most of all. And so there will be timestamps down below where you can skip through and you can see exactly what that link is. Of course, if you want, I will be saving some additional information for Twister because that's the build I play currently. I'm just kind of taking on Lightning Spear temporarily because I saw there was an opportunity to help the community with this. And I suspect a lot of you will be quite grateful for what I'm about to share today. I like making these sort of educational and informative if I can, and kind of pretend that maybe you don't know a whole lot about what, the baseline of what is being discussed today, because it is very meta and can seem a little bit advanced to some of you guys. So I'm going to be peeling back the onions a little bit on Innervate and Ice Bite, and we're going to be talking about it kind of one step at a time. We'll lead up to, that link that I mentioned, and then save the Twister stuff for the end. Let's get started. So just like the last video, I have a few clips here saved up, and we're going to go through them. I'm going to kind of narrate what's going on. As you can see in this clip, I have Lightning Spear already, and it's going to have the full links, basically all damage, some of the best links. There is some contention on what the absolute best Lightning Spear link is. It may depend a little bit on how you set things up. I think it's actually a little more straightforward when it comes to the Heralds. But anyway, here's Lightning Spear. We got it connected to Perpetual Charge, Volt, Long Shot, Fork, and Deliberation. And those may or may not match the exact links you have. Not necessarily saying these are the absolute best, but just showing you that these are the links that I will be showcasing throughout most of this video. And what I'm going to do next is add Innervate support, and I'm going to replace one of the links in here. So I'm going to sacrifice a link to get an opportunity to have a 5-second global damage buff increase. 35% gain damage as extra lightning damage is essentially 35% more damage if you have no other sources of gain as extra. It's its own damage bucket, and it can be a little hard to get sources of that. It includes things like some of the notables off the monk tree section, early section of that tree, as well as the Sacred Flame, which is sitting in my inventory right there on the screen, or Ice Bite, or maybe, Against the Darkness, Jewel, some of the explicit mods. There's not really that many places you can get this particular modifier, but there are some, and that's just a few that I can name off the top of my head. So I'm going to put Innervate into the link. I'm going to sacrifice 20% more damage multiplier. I'm pulling Deliberation out, and you're going to see that this Innervate buff is going to be coming up pretty easily. There it is. Now mine lasts for 8 seconds because I have more skill effect duration than most builds would. For you, if you're running Lightning Spear, you probably only have about 5 or 6 seconds, but you can see that, in this super quick showcase, that's going to be up basically 100% of the time because Lightning Spear shocks like crazy. Now, what if you didn't want to sacrifice a link there? There's different things you can do, and, if you're somebody who is experimenting with a build, it's obvious that Grinding Gear Games would like us to use more than one skill, and this has indirectly incentivized us to do so. This is just one example of something you could do. You could add Stormlance to the build, which, it doesn't necessarily have to shock, but definitely in the same theme as Lightning Spear. A lot of people run Stormlance already, and you could put it in there and then also cast, Lightning Spear and then sometimes Stormlance. And you'll see here in a second, we're going to have, there it is. Innervate is up because I used the Stormlance. And now this comes with one of the downsides is that Stormlance generally, at least for clear, is a lot less powerful than Lightning Spear. So that hurts a little bit, but it does make Lightning Spear better. Of course, there are way better ways to go about this than what you just see here. But as somebody who is trying to experiment, trying to take it one step at a time, this is definitely a viable option. All right, another thing you might do is Glacial Lance, which is yet another one of the Lance skills. It is basically all about cold and freeze. It has a terrific synergies with freeze, and if you really want to freeze enemies, you can use this ability in conjunction with Lightning Spear and kind of crisscross them. And this will feel pretty good because you're actually freezing enemies. It makes it a lot safer for you, and you can get Ice Bite instead of Innervate. Or you can maybe get Innervate somewhere else, but this would definitely be a pretty surefire way of getting Ice Bite into your build. Again, it costs one additional button, so that is a downside, but certainly another option. Moving on, we're now going to look at heralds, and I have Herald of Thunder, which is, of course, the herald, the default herald for Lightning Spear, because you're already shocking everything naturally. But you're going to see that the links in here are so very different than what you probably have in yours. I just have 3 links in here for demonstration purposes. Let's see what they are. They're Herald. We got Herald of Thunder with Ice Bite, which may in and of itself seem really strange. Then we have Glaciation. Okay, that makes it even more likely to freeze. But what really enables the freeze is Cold Infusion. Now, this was tech that was actually kind of old in 0.1. Some of you may be familiar with the Reverse Ailment Double Herald tech, which was kind of the self-propagating explosion, chaining explosion. That no longer works. But essentially, while the chain was broken on that, the core functionality of switching the ailments and getting like Herald of Ice to shock or getting Herald of Thunder to freeze, that still exists in this game. It just, the heralds themselves cannot destroy monsters in a never-ending chain anymore. And so you can see I have the skill pane open here, and you can see the damage numbers. Actually, let me rewind it just a second there. Yeah, so if I pull the support gem out, you can see it's doing way more lightning damage than cold naturally. And the reason it's doing any cold whatsoever is because I have like 1 source of flat cold on my ring, and I do have an Against the Darkness with cold. Bear in mind, this may not work quite as well as what you're going to see here if you have 0 sources of flat cold, but I think most builds, even Lightning Spear builds, will have at least a little bit of flat cold, or they will in a lot of cases. But anyway, you may not need it, because what Cold Infusion does is it dramatically lowers your lightning damage and then increases the cold damage. But it's kind of important to just see what the damage numbers are here for me in my build, and keep in mind I do have like a very high crit chance because this is on Amazon. It would apply to Deadeye nevertheless. And so when we go around killing things, I'm not going to be getting Innervate, obviously, off of Herald of Thunder, which is what many of you are doing. I'm going to be getting Ice Bite. So there it is. It kicks in right there. And it's kind of hard to differentiate between Lightning Spear and Herald of Thunder kills. But, I mean, rest assured, if you see that ice buff refreshed, well, that's 100% guaranteed. I mean, you can see the Herald. If you are familiar with the different skills, you can see it going out there. And it had a tremendously high uptime, very reliable source of Ice Bite. All right, I've now led you up to the moment where I share with you the big link. This is the best link for Herald of Thunder if you're running a conventional Lightning Spear build. Most Lightning Spear builds will have a Herald of Thunder that just has Innervate in there like this, which is obviously going to make sense. And then it'll have just a little bit of extra damage, maybe some extra AoE, or maybe Concentrate Effect, I don't know. Or, you know, Electrocute, something like that, which is nice because it'll help give you defense. But here, instead of Electrocute, we're going to rely on Freeze, which is going to be even better because it also gets Chill. And then Freeze is going to be able to grant us Ice Bite, which is free additional damage that you probably didn't already have. The final link is a little bit of the secret sauce for this. It's Embitter support. So while Innervate is super reliable in Herald of Thunder, Ice Bite is not, conventionally speaking. And what Embitter does is it transforms the 35% gain as extra lightning into cold for Herald of Thunder, which makes Herald of Thunder do even more cold damage. If you actually fast forward to this section, you didn't see the other links. They are Cold Infusion, Glaciation, and Ice Bite in there. So now we're doing a huge amount, relatively speaking, for Herald of Thunder. We're going to be doing a huge amount of cold damage with that. Whereas Lightning Spear keeps its integrity with all the damage links, all that damage, and now also getting 70% gained as extra damage, half of it cold, half of it lightning, which means, actually the most important thing is what that means. Instead of just relying on some of the added defense from Electrocute from Herald of Thunder itself will freeze actually even better than it already electrocuted. And on top of that, your Lightning Spear will also freeze, which is something you wouldn't have had normally if you didn't have Ice Bite in the links. Take a look at the buff bar here. You'll see just how reliable this is on the current setup I'm running, which is not an optimized Lightning Spear build. I do have good gear, but I'm optimized for Twister. I'm an Amazon. It could be doing double damage with Deadeye effectively. I am moving fast with Whirling Slash, so that's going to look different than Aroa or whatever. But just look at how reliable that is. Those buffs are up 100% of the time. Even if the buff duration was only 2 seconds, it would basically be 100% uptime. In maps, might look a little different for you. Maybe, you know, if you have different sources of flat damage, or if you have way less damage, or if you're trying to do some crazy high delirium stuff, it might look a little different, may not be 100% reliable. But anyway, I think this is the absolute best link that you can have for Herald of Thunder after having done ample amount of testing. Even though I wasn't testing specifically on Lightning Spear, I just kind of discovered it along the way. And so yeah, my gift to you, I think that could prove to be really nice for you. Give that one a try. But next up, I'm going to show you the higher budget version with the Sacred Flame. Alright, the reason why I'm using this shield is because I'm doing accuracy stacking for Twister, so I'm going to take this off and use the Sacred Flame, which is a high budget version for especially Amazon variant of Lightning Spear. It's one that everybody wants. It gives you a huge damage increase. Let me go back and see so you can see the number. In this case, I have 57% damage is extra fire damage. Now, this will only be additive with the other buffs, so maybe in a certain sense make them a little bit less valuable than they would otherwise be, but this is going to ignite all the enemies too, which means I'm going to be using a very special link, Immolate, which gains 30% damage as extra fire, and putting that in the Herald. Why would I do that? Because I want everything to freeze. Well, if you remember, I have Embitter support, which is going to make every source of gain as extra also do cold. So now I have Innervate plus Ice Bite plus Sacred Flame, which means I'm way over 100% gain, 100% as extra pure cold for the sake of Herald of Thunder, making that Ice Bite just leaps and bounds more reliable than it would otherwise be. And this is what the combat's going to look like in this case. You're going to see that Innervate buff go out and Ice Bite, of course. And yeah, I mean, it's just going to basically look the same. It's just far, far more viable and would actually work really well, even in crazy high deliriousness, even in ailment threshold maps. This would probably be pulled off well enough. And let this just be added motivation for you to get the Sacred Flame, because you can make it a really, really cool and groovy Herald of Thunder link. Certainly, I would assume that all of those support links in there are probably not going anywhere else. And so this is what I mean when I say you're not sacrificing anything. You sacrifice Electrocute, you got Freeze. So there's really no sacrifice, just pure upside, at the very least gaining 35% as extra cold damage, which is going to make you do a whole lot of it more damage with Lightning Spear, and give you a whole lot more survivability otherwise, because you're going to be chilling and freezing enemies on top of that. So that's going to be it on Lightning Spear in particular. Next up, we have the Twister version. So this is for all you guys who might be following the build I'm running, or you're just running Twisters in general. I'm going to give you a really nice setup that doesn't require the Dance of Destruction boots or Call of the Brotherhood. I have, I'd say, officially retired these now. It's taken me a while to really come up with something that I like especially. I hovered over the Infused Weapon link just to show you that I'm actually putting Ice Bite in there, which can be somewhat reliable. It's a little tricky that after the Twisters explode, they do a bunch of infused damage, in which case it will have the opportunity to do some cold damage and freeze enemies. Ice Bite's not super reliable with what I'm doing here, but instead of running Herald of Thunder for the build I'm doing, I decided to go with Herald of Ice because it turns out to be way more reliable clear and gets pumped up like crazy when you double AoE it, which is what I'm doing. I'm making Herald of Ice, actually I'm not making it shock, rather. I don't need to. I just need to make sure I shock enemies otherwise. And we're going to have... Oh, wait. No, I am making it shock, actually. I forgot. Yes, I am. With Lightning Infusion instead of Cold Infusion. And so this is going to make Herald of Ice actually do lightning damage. Herald of Ice scales way harder than Herald of Thunder, so it's a lot easier to make this work on the Herald of Ice side. I got Magnified Effect and Reach, which seems to be no downside for Reach for Heralds. And then the last one is Long Shot, just to get a little bit of extra damage. And this is some playthrough here. You can just kind of see the buff bars. You're not going to see... I don't think you're actually going to see Ice Bite come up because it's a little bit hard to get working when you're moving as fast as I am here in like non-delirious content where the mobs just get wiped off the screen, many screens over. So, you know, Twisters don't actually explode with anything left alive to get that Ice Bite buff. But you can see Innervate is incredibly high uptime there. You can see that I have freezing Twisters now. Where is that coming from? If you see in the cast on Crit Link, you'll see there's a Frostbolt in there, just level 3. And that is really reliable, surprisingly reliable. I've had a bit of a sticking point with getting rid of Dance of Destruction, but I think with this setup, I'm willing to. The only downside to what I'm doing here is that I don't have a very reliable source of Ice Bite. And while I could do the similar link that I was doing with Lightning Spear, from my end, it doesn't make as much sense if I'm running freezing Twisters to do that, because I'm not necessarily shocking things very well. And Herald of Ice is just doing some crazy clear. I mean, absolute crazy clear, which you kind of got to see there. All right, guys, that's going to conclude the video. I hope you were able to get some value out of this. And honestly, guys, you know, I really like it when players who watch videos like these don't just copy one for one what I'm doing. You know, if you're sitting there wondering, how in the world did I not know about this? What do you mean? Like, the guide never said anything like this. Well, that's the beauty of the game, especially in this current state. There's so many things left to discover. I've been doing crazy amounts of testing. It is super fulfilling when you do that, even the parts where you're banging your head against the wall and things aren't working, because eventually you figure out something that works probably even better than you bargained for all along the way. And this is kind of one of those situations where I wasn't even trying to figure out something good for Lightning Spear. Just kind of stumbled upon it or came back to it, I guess, kind of like old tech from before. And there's probably some of you in the chat, or rather the comments, who are going to announce to us that you were already doing this the whole time. And hats off to you. You were experimenting with it beyond what maybe a particular guide said, this or that. But anyway, for those of you who hadn't even remotely thought of this yet, well, that's what comes with testing things. So I would really encourage you guys, try to step outside the comfort box, step outside a build guide 1-for-1, try different things, try the setup that I did, try other things. Hopefully this inspired you to look at some other angle. There's probably other support gem setups that might be better. Even though I'm sitting here saying this is the best link for Herald of Thunder, let's be honest, there might be something better that comes along in another few days. Who knows? Or even in the comments right down below. So you should probably read the comments, because who knows what's being said down there. Anyway, guys, let me know if you have any other suggestions or comments. I hope you were able to get something big out of this video. I'm obviously going to have to start coming out with some new build related stuff, because the build's changing yet again, and I think it's going to be for the best, to be honest. I'm going to leave the Maxroll link as it is right now, but I will put down the path of building to this exact snapshot of the character so you can see it there. You'll have to load it in the PoE program, specifically if you want to see all of the details. If you try to just put it in the side, it won't work necessarily. But you can also check the PoE Ninja link, which will have what I'm doing. That's a super up-to-date version, which might be different, but who knows. Anyway, I'm out for now. I will see you guys in the next video. Thanks for watching.